The explosion came 3 days later. In the middle of the night, Do-hyun was dreaming about rain when the world turned upside down. One moment he was in his bed. The next moment he was on the floor, his ears ringing, alarms screaming all around him. Red emergency lights painted everything the color of blood. He was on his feet before he was fully awake. Years of training took over. Check for injuries. None. Find your weapon. He grabbed a service knife from his boot, the only weapon allowed to human delegates. Get to safety. Figure out what happened. The station shook again. More explosions. These weren't accidents. This was an attack. Do-hyun moved into the corridor. Emergency bulkheads were slamming down all over the station, cutting off sections, trapping people wherever they happened to be. He needed to reach the human section, find Captain Jisoo, get orders. He ran through the red-lit corridors, but every route was blocked. Bulkheads sealed. Fires burning. The station's computer voice kept repeating the same message. Emergency lockdown in effect. Remain in your current location. Help is coming. Help was not coming. Do-hyun could feel it in his bones. Whatever was happening, it was big. Bigger than the station's security could handle. He found a maintenance corridor and squeezed inside. These tunnels ran throughout the station, used by workers and cleaning robots. They were cramped and dark, but they weren't sealed by the emergency systems. He crawled through the darkness, following the sound of voices. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, he found an access panel and pushed it open. He dropped into a storage room and immediately wished he hadn't. Princess Alira sat against the far wall, her silver skin stained with violet blood. A piece of metal stuck out of her shoulder. Her handmaiden, Lady Nara, knelt beside her, pressing cloth against the wound. Both of them looked up when Do-hyun appeared. "The human," Alira said. Her voice was weak, but still carried that note of disgust. "Perfect. I am dying, and my last sight will be a prey animal." "You're not dying." Do-hyun crossed the room quickly, already assessing the wound. The metal was deep, but it missed the major blood vessels. She would live if they could stop the bleeding and avoid infection. "Nara, keep pressure on that. Don't let her move. You dare give orders to," Alira started. "I dare to keep you alive." He didn't look at her face. He was too busy examining the wound. "Your Highness, with respect, please be quiet." Alira's mouth fell open. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not once in her 200 years of life. Before she could respond, the storage room door buckled. Something was trying to get him. Something strong. Do-hyun grabbed his knife and put himself between the door and the two Valorians. "Stay behind me." Alira laughed weakly. "You? Against whatever that is. You will die in seconds. Maybe, but they'll have to go through me first." The door exploded inward. Standing in the opening was a nightmare. The syndicate enforcer was 7 feet tall and barely looked alive anymore. Most of its body had been replaced with metal and machinery. 4 arms, each ending in different weapons. Armor plating over every surface. A single red eye that scanned the room and locked onto the princess. "Target acquired," it said in a voice like grinding metal. "Surrender the Valorian Royal." Do-hyun moved. Everything he had learned, everything he had trained for, everything he had buried under years of being a polite translator came flooding back. He was not big. He was not strong. He was not covered in armor or carrying heavy weapons, but he was fast. And he was smart. And he had absolutely no intention of dying in this storage room. He threw himself at the enforcer before it could react. His knife found the gap between armor plates at the elbow joint. The enforcer's right arm went dead. Do-hyun was already moving, rolling under a punch that would have taken his head off. Coming up behind the creature, the enforcer spun, firing weapons blindly. Do-hyun used its own bulk as cover, staying close, staying in its blind spots. His knife found another gap. Another arm went limp. The creature roared and charged forward, trying to crush him against the wall. Do-hyun jumped, using the enforcer's shoulder as a stepping stone, landing behind it again. This time, his knife went into the back of its neck, finding the power cables hidden there. The enforcer crashed to the ground and stopped moving. Do-hyun stood over it, breathing hard. Blood ran down his forehead from a cut he didn't remember getting. His whole body was shaking. How? Alira whispered. How did you do that? Before he could answer, more footsteps echoed in the corridor. More enforcers. Do-hyun grabbed the weapon from the fallen machine and checked it. Fully charged. Good. We need to move, he said. Can you walk? I think so. Nara, help her up. Stay close to me. Don't make any noise. They moved into the corridor. Do-hyun led them through the maze of passages, somehow always knowing which way to go. His training had included station layouts, emergency protocols, escape routes. He had memorized everything before leaving Earth, just in case. They encountered 2 more enforcers before reaching a safer section of the station. Do-hyun killed both of them. The second fight was harder. He took a hit to his ribs that made every breath feel like fire. But he kept moving, kept fighting, kept putting himself between the danger and the 2 Valorians behind him. Finally, they found a small room that seemed secure. Do-hyun sealed the door and let himself lean against the wall for just a moment. You are not a translator, Nara said quietly. It was not a question. I'm a translator. Do-hyun checked his stolen weapon again. Half charge remaining. Not good enough. I'm also other things. What other things? The kind that humans don't talk about at diplomatic receptions. Alira was watching him with different eyes now. The disgust was gone, replaced by something else. Confusion. Maybe even a little fear. You could have run, she said. When you found us. You could have saved yourself. No, I couldn't. Why not? He finally looked at her. His eyes were calm, steady, completely different from the frightened translator she had mocked 3 days ago. Because that's not what humans do. The station shook again. Distant explosions. Distant screaming. Whatever was attacking them was not finished yet. What is happening? Nara asked. Who are these creatures? The Void Syndicate. Do-hyun had put the pieces together during their escape. They're a group of exiles and criminals from different species. They've been waiting for a moment like this, when all the major powers gather in one place. What do they want? Do-hyun looked at Alira. I think they want you, Your Highness. Or rather, they want what your empire will pay to get you back. Alira's face went pale. Ransom. Ransom. Political pressure. Maybe both. He checked the door seal again. We need to keep moving. Find other survivors. Find a way to fight back. Fight back? Against an army? Against anything. Do-hyun extended his hand to help her up. That's what stubborn means, Your Highness. We don't stop just because things look impossible. Alira stared at his hand for a long moment. This same hand had held a knife that killed 3 heavily armed enforcers. This same hand belonged to the creature she had called weak and soft and prey. Slowly, carefully, she took it. I think, she said quietly, that I may have been wrong about your species. Do-hyun almost smiled. We get that a lot. He pulled her to her feet, and together they moved deeper into the dying station. Kang Do-hyun had never felt so small in his entire life. He stood in the great reception hall of Station Apex, surrounded by creatures from 100 different worlds. Some were tall and beautiful. Some were made of gas and light. Some had so many eyes that Do-hyun couldn't look at them without feeling dizzy. And here he was, a simple human translator, wearing a uniform that suddenly felt very cheap. The Galactic Assembly happened once every 100 years. Every major species in the known universe sent their leaders, their royalty, their best and brightest. Humanity had only discovered faster than light travel 20 years ago. They were the new kids, the babies of the galaxy. Most species looked at humans the way humans looked at ants. Do Hyun's job was simple. Stand near Captain Yoon Jisoo. Translate when needed. Smile politely. Don't cause problems. Don't embarrass Earth. He was doing fine until she walked in. Princess Alira of the Valorian Empire entered the hall like a storm entering a quiet room. She was 8 feet tall, with skin like polished silver that caught the light and threw it back in rainbows. Her eyes burned with soft blue fire, and her hair floated around her head like she was underwater. She was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, like staring at the sun. The Valorians were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They had conquered 12 star systems. Their warriors could punch through steel. Their scientists had solved problems that other species couldn't even understand. When a Valorian spoke, everyone listened. Princess Alira walked through the crowd, and people moved out of her way like water parting for a ship. Her handmaiden, a smaller Valorian named Lady Nara, followed 3 steps behind. The princess looked at each species as she passed, nodding to some, ignoring others. Then her burning eyes found the human group. She stopped walking. Her head tilted to one side, like a cat spotting something interesting. Then she smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "So these are the humans," she said. Her voice was like music and thunder mixed together. "I have heard stories about your species." Captain Jisoo stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Your Highness, it is an honor to meet you. The people of Earth extend their warmest greetings to the Valorian Empire." Alira didn't look at the captain. She was looking at Diane. He felt her gaze like a physical weight on his chest. He wanted to look away, but something told him that would be a mistake. So he met her eyes and kept his face calm, even though his heart was beating fast. "This one," she said, pointing at him with one long silver finger. "What is this one?" "This is Kang Do-Yun, Your Highness," Captain Jisoo answered. "He is our translator." "A translator." Alira laughed softly. "He translates words. That is his purpose. That is his value." She began to walk around Do-Yun in a slow circle. He stood very still. He could feel everyone in the hall watching. The crowd delegates clicked their insect mouths in amusement. The Morthians, creatures made of colored gas, rippled with laughter. Even some of the other human officers looked uncomfortable. "No claws," Alira observed, looking at his hands. "No fangs." She leaned closer to his face. "No venom, no armor, no natural weapons of any kind." She straightened up and addressed the crowd. "Tell me, how did this species survive long enough to reach the stars? They are soft. They are small. They break so easily." Da-Hyun felt his face grow hot, but he kept his expression neutral. He had trained for situations like this. Not in any classroom, but in much harder places. He knew how to take an insult without flinching. "We are survivors, Your Highness," he said quietly. Alira's eyes widened slightly. She had not expected him to speak. "It speaks. The prey animal speaks." She laughed again, and this time others joined her. "Tell me, little human, what makes you a survivor? What do you do when a predator comes for you? Run? Hide? Cry for your mother?" "We adapt," Do-Yun said. His voice was calm and steady. "We learn. We find a way. Find a way." She made the words sound ridiculous. "And when there is no way? When you face something stronger, faster, and smarter than you, then we become more stubborn than our problem." The hall went quiet. Several species exchanged glances. That was not the answer anyone had expected. Alira stared at him for a long moment. Then she shook her head and turned away. Stubbornness is not strength. Stubbornness is what the weak call their refusal to accept reality. She walked back toward her handmaiden. I have seen enough of the humans. They are exactly what I expected. Soft, fragile, forgettable. She left the hall without looking back. The crowd slowly returned to their conversations, but Do-yoon could feel people glancing at him. Some with pity, some with amusement, some with something that might have been curiosity. Captain Jisoo put a hand on his shoulder. Are you okay? I'm fine, Captain. You handled that well. Most people would have lost their temper. Do-hyun almost smiled. Permission to speak freely, ma'am. Granted. She's scared. Jisoo blinked. The princess? Scared. Of what? Of us? Do-hyun watched the door where Alira had disappeared. She doesn't understand humans. We don't fit into her categories. We're not predators, but we're not quite prey either. We reach the stars with no natural advantages, no great strength, no special powers. That confuses her. And things that confuse powerful people often scare them. Jisoo was quiet for a moment. That's a very generous interpretation. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just too stubborn to take an insult personally. That night, Do-hyun lay in his small quarters and stared at the ceiling. The room was barely bigger than a closet. Humans got the worst accommodations on Station Apex. They were the newcomers, after all. They hadn't earned anything better. He thought about the princess and her burning eyes. He thought about the way she had circled him, like a predator examining prey. She wasn't wrong about humans being soft and fragile. A Valorian could break him in half without trying. Most species in the galaxy could kill a human with ease. But the princess didn't know everything. She didn't know that Do-hyun had spent 3 years in special forces before becoming a translator. She didn't know about the missions he never talked about, the things he had done in dark places where no one was watching. She didn't know about the scars hidden under his uniform, or the nightmares that still woke him sometimes. Most importantly, she didn't know what humans were really capable of when they had something to protect. Do-hyun had learned a long time ago that strength wasn't about muscles or claws or natural armor. Strength was about what you were willing to do, what you were willing to sacrifice, what you refused to give up, no matter how much it hurt. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that should have wiped them out a dozen times over. They had climbed out of the mud and reached for the stars with nothing but cleverness and pure stubborn will. The princess called that weakness. Do-hyun called it being human. He closed his eyes and let sleep come. Tomorrow would be another day of smiling politely and translating words and pretending not to notice when aliens looked at him like he was an insect. But somewhere deep inside, in a place he rarely visited anymore, a soldier was waiting. A survivor. A man who knew exactly what he was capable of, even if the rest of the galaxy did not. The universe would show Princess Alira the truth eventually. Do-hyun just hoped she would survive the lesson when it came. He had no idea how soon that lesson would arrive. The Syndicate's demands came through every speaker on the station. Attention, delegates of the Galactic Assembly. We have control of Station Apex. We have disabled your ships. We have blocked all communications with the outside world. You are alone. Do-hyun pressed himself against the wall, listening. Alira and Nara crouched behind him in the shadows of an abandoned cargo bay. Our demands are simple. Surrender Princess Alira of the Valorian Empire. You have 12 hours. After that, we will begin killing hostages. 1 per hour. Until we get what we want. The speakers went silent. Alira's face was pale. They will find me, she whispered. It is only a matter of time. Then we need to use that time wisely. Dahyun pulled out a small tablet he had taken from one of the fallen enforcers. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. Let me see if I can access the station systems. You know how to do that? Special Forces training includes many things. His fingers moved across the screen, including how to break into systems that don't want to be broken into. For several minutes, the only sound was Do-yoon tapping at the tablet. Finally, he nodded. I have a map of the station. The Syndicate controls the center, including the command center and the main docking base. But there are still safe areas near the outer sections. He pointed to a spot on the map. Here, the Arboretum is designed to provide oxygen for the station. Good defensive position. Only one way in. I'm seeing life signs there. Other survivors. How far? Nara asked. 6 sections. Through some dangerous territory. He put the tablet away. But we can make it. We just have to be careful. They moved out. The station had become a nightmare. Red emergency lights everywhere. Bodies on the ground. Some alien species Do-yoon didn't recognize. The smell of smoke and burned metal hung in the air. Every few minutes, they heard footsteps or voices and had to hide. Do-yoon led them through service tunnels and maintenance corridors, avoiding the main passages where Syndicate patrols walked. His wound from earlier had stopped bleeding, but every breath still hurt. He ignored it. Pain was just information. It told you what was damaged. It didn't have to control you. How do you know where to go? Alira asked during one of their rest stops. Her shoulder had stopped bleeding too, but she was weak from blood loss. Moving was hard for her. I studied the station before we arrived. Memorized the layouts. He checked around a corner before waving them forward. I study everything before I go anywhere. Why? You are a translator. You work with words. I wasn't always a translator. Alira was quiet for a moment. What were you before? Do-hyun didn't answer right away. They crossed through another section, found another safe spot to rest. Only then did he speak. I was a soldier. Special Forces. The kind that goes into places where the rules don't apply and does things that never appear in any report. He didn't look at her while he spoke. I was very good at it. Too good, maybe. After a while, the things I had to do started following me home. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't think. Couldn't be around people without wondering how I would kill them if I had to. So you stopped. So I asked for a transfer. They made me a translator. Said my language skills were too valuable to waste. Really, I think they just didn't know what else to do with me. He smiled a little, but it didn't reach his eyes. Turns out the skills I learned don't go away just because you change jobs. Alira studied him. You speak of yourself like you are something dangerous. Something broken. Maybe I am. No. Her voice was firm. Broken things cannot do what you have done. Broken things do not put themselves between danger and strangers. You are not broken. You are just different. Do-hyun looked at her, surprised. This was not the same princess who had mocked him in the reception hall. This was someone else. Someone he hadn't expected. Thank you, Your Highness. Call me Alira. I think we are past formal titles now. They kept moving. Along the way, they found other survivors. A group of Kral delegates, their insect bodies trembling with fear. A Morthian scientist, floating sadly in a containment bubble. 2 human engineers from the station's maintenance crew. A young Valorian servant who cried with relief when she saw her princess alive. Do-hyun organized them all. He gave weapons to those who could use them, assigned roles to those who couldn't. He moved through the group like a commander, and somehow, no one questioned his authority. Not even Alira. You are leading us, she said quietly as they prepared to move again. These people are following a human. They're following someone who knows what to do. Species doesn't matter when you're scared and running for your life. It matters to me." She caught his arm before he could walk away. "I mocked you. I called you weak. I said your species was prey. I remember. And still you protect me. Still you risk your life for me." Her burning eyes searched his face. "Why? I don't deserve it." Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. "When I was young, my grandmother told me something I've never forgotten. She said that a person's value isn't measured by how they treat their friends. It's measured by how they treat their enemies." He gently removed her hand from his arm. "You insulted me. You looked down on me. But you're not my enemy, Alira. You're just someone who made a mistake. And I don't let people die for their mistakes if I can help it." That is a very human way of thinking. Yes, it is. They reached the Arboretum 3 hours later. The dome was huge, filled with plants from 100 different worlds. Trees with purple leaves, flowers that glowed in the dark, grass that whispered when you walked on it. The survivors inside had built barricades from fallen planters and broken benches. There were almost 200 of them from dozens of different species. When Do-hyun's group arrived, a cheer went up. People rushed forward to help the wounded, to share food and water, to hear news from other parts of the station. Captain Yoon Ji-soo pushed through the crowd and grabbed Do-hyun's shoulders. "You're alive. Thank the stars, you're alive. Mostly alive. A few dents, nothing serious. We thought everyone in the diplomatic wing was dead." The captain looked past him and saw Alira. Her eyebrows rose. "And you brought the princess. She's with us now, wounded but stable." Jisoo looked at him for a long moment. Something passed between them, an understanding that didn't need words. "You've been busy, haven't you? Staying alive mostly. How many do we have here?" "About 200. Mix of species. Not many fighters." She lowered her voice. "The Syndicate knows we're here. They've been testing our defenses for hours. Small groups, probing attacks. They're building up to something big. How long? Maybe 6 hours. Maybe less." Do-hyun nodded slowly. "Then we have 6 hours to figure out how to stop them." "Stop them? With what? We're civilians and diplomats. They're an army." He looked around the Arboretum. 200 scared people from different worlds, huddled together in a garden on a dying station. No fleet coming to rescue them. No weapons worth mentioning. No real hope. "We have something they don't," he said. "What's that?" Do-hyun turned back to the captain, and something in his eyes made her take a step back. "We have absolutely nothing to lose." He walked toward the center of the Arboretum, already planning. Behind him, Alira watched with something new in her expression. Something that might have been hope, or fear. She wasn't sure which was more appropriate anymore. The Syndicate came with everything they had. Do-hyun stood at the entrance of the Arboretum and watched them assemble. 50 enforcers, maybe more. Heavily armed, heavily armored, ready to kill everyone inside and take the princess by force. Their deadline had passed. Their patience had run out. At their heads stood Wraith. The Syndicate commander was a monster even by their standards. 8 feet tall, 6 arms, each carrying a different weapon. His body was more machine than flesh, covered in black armor that seemed to eat the light. Where his face should have been, there was only a metal skull with 3 glowing red eyes. "Surrender the princess," Wraith's voice boomed across the Arboretum entrance. "This is your final warning. Give her to us, and we will let the rest of you live." Behind Do-hyun, 200 survivors huddled behind barricades made of plants and furniture. They had weapons, mostly taken from fallen enforcers. They had courage, the kind that comes from having no other choice. But they were not soldiers. Most of them had never fired a weapon in their lives. Captain Jisoo stood beside him. "What do we do?" Do-hyun didn't answer. He was looking at the enforcers, counting them, measuring their positions. His mind was working on a dozen problems at once. Do-hyun, what do we do? I'm going to talk to them. Talk? Are you crazy? Maybe. He started walking forward, alone, into the open space between the two groups. Stay here. Protect the others. Whatever happens, don't let them through. Do-hyun. But he was already gone, walking calmly toward an army that could kill him 100 times over. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Every eye in both groups was watching him. Wraith's 3 eyes focused on the approaching human. What is this? They send one soft creature to negotiate? Do-hyun stopped 10 meters from the syndicate line. Close enough to be heard. Far enough to have a chance if things went wrong. I have a counteroffer. Counteroffer? Wraith laughed, a horrible grinding sound. You are in no position to make offers, little human. Leave now. Walk away. Forget the princess and everything that happened here. Do that, and I'll let you live. The enforcers looked at each other. Some of them laughed. Wraith's red eyes pulsed brighter. You? One human? Against my army? Wraith took a step forward. I could kill you without trying. I could tear you apart with my smallest finger. You could try. Do-hyun's voice was perfectly calm. But I don't think you will. And why is that? Because your soldiers have been talking to each other. They found the bodies of the enforcers I killed. They've heard the stories from the ones who saw me fight and lived. And right now, every single one of them is wondering the same thing. Wraith was silent, waiting. They're wondering if they'll be next. Do-hyun let that sink in for a moment. Then he continued, speaking loudly enough for every enforcer to hear. Let me tell you something about humans. We're not strong. I know that. We're not fast. We don't have armor or claws or weapons built into our bodies. By every measure you use, we should be prey. He took a step forward. But we're not. Do you know why? Because we have something more dangerous than strength. We have spite. Another step. We looked at a universe full of predators and said no. We refused to be prey. We refused to lay down and die. Every time something tried to kill us, we got up and found a way to kill it back. Ice ages, plagues, predators with teeth and claws and everything nature could give them. We survived them all. Not because we were stronger. Because we were more stubborn. He was close now. Close enough to touch. Wraith towered over him, but Do-hyun didn't flinch. I've killed 11 of your enforcers in the last 12 hours. I did it tired, wounded, and protecting civilians. 3 of them at once, with nothing but a knife. He smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Imagine what I'll do now that I'm angry. Wraith's 6 arms tensed. His weapons powered up. You're bluffing. Am I? Do-hyun spread his arms wide. Then kill me. Right here. Right now. Show your soldiers that I'm just another weak human. Prove that there's nothing to be afraid of. The moment stretched. Wraith's fingers tightened on his weapons. Behind Do-hyun, the survivors held their breath. Then Wraith hesitated. It was only a small moment. A tiny flicker of uncertainty. But the enforcers saw it. Their commander, the monster who had led them through a dozen conquests, was hesitating because of one human. Do-hyun saw it too. Your soldiers are afraid, he said softly, so only Wraith could hear. They've never fought anything like us. They don't know what we'll do. And that scares them more than any weapon. I am not afraid. No? Then why haven't you killed me yet? Wraith's red eyes flickered. You are nothing. Your species is nothing. My species crawled out of the mud with nothing but sticks and stones and pure stubborn will. We tamed fire. We tamed the atom. We reached the stars while everyone said it was impossible. Do-hyun leaned closer. We survived 5 extinction-level events before we ever left our planet. 5 times the universe tried to kill us, and 5 times we said no. He stepped back. So here's my offer one more time. Leave now. Tell your masters the princess was never here. Walk away with your lives. He pointed at the survivors behind him. Or stay and fight. Kill me. Kill all of us. But know this. Before we fall, we will make you pay a price you cannot imagine. We will hurt you in ways you didn't know were possible. Because that's what humans do. We don't just die. We take our enemies with us. Silence. Complete, total silence. Then, slowly, one of the enforcers stepped back. Then another. Then 3 more. Stand your ground. Wraith roared. I command you to stand. But fear had taken root. The enforcers had heard the stories. They had seen what this human could do. And now they were looking at him, standing alone against their entire army, completely unafraid. And they were asking themselves a terrible question. What if he was telling the truth? More enforcers retreated. Wraith screamed at them, threatened them, but they kept backing away. The fear was contagious now, spreading through the ranks like a disease. Finally, Wraith turned back to Do-yoon. The red eyes burned with hatred. This isn't over, the commander growled. It is today. Do-yoon didn't move. Run now. Run fast. Because if I see you again, I won't give you the chance to surrender. For a long, terrible moment, Wraith stared at him. 6 arms, dozens of weapons. Enough firepower to level the Arboretum. But something in the human's eyes gave him pause. Something old and cold and absolutely certain. Wraith turned and walked. Away. His army followed. The Arboretum erupted in cheers. Survivors of a dozen species screaming and crying and hugging each other. They were alive. Against all odds, they were alive. Do-yoon walked back to the barricade, and his legs gave out. Captain Jisoo caught him before he hit the ground. Easy. I've got you. Thank you. His voice was barely a whisper. I think I need to sit down. Alira appeared beside him. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. You were bluffing. You could barely stand. You couldn't have fought them. I know. Then how did you know they would retreat? Do-yoon closed his eyes. Because fear is stronger than logic. And humans have been bluffing predators since we lived in caves. It's kind of our thing. He felt unconsciousness pulling at him, but before he let it win, he heard Alira say something soft. I was wrong about you. I was wrong about all of you. He wanted to answer, but the darkness was too heavy. He let it take him, falling into a dreamless sleep while the cheers of 200 survivors echoed around him. The rescue fleet arrived 6 hours later. Do-yoon was still unconscious when they came. A combined force from a dozen different species, including 3 Valorian warships that had broken several speed records to reach the station. They found the syndicate scattered and running, their leadership broken, their army falling apart. Captain Jisoo was the one who explained what happened. She told the admirals and generals and diplomats about the attack, the siege, and the impossible stand at the Arboretum. She told them about the human translator who had killed enforcers, protected a princess, and talked an army into retreat. They didn't believe her at first. Then they saw the recordings. When Do-yoon finally woke up, he was in a hospital bed on a Valorian medical ship. The room was huge and beautiful, with windows that showed the stars. Machines beeped softly around him, monitoring his recovery. He tried to sit up, but pain flashed through his ribs and he fell back with a groan. You should rest. Alira sat in a chair beside his bed. Her wound had been healed, her silver skin polished and perfect again. But her eyes were different, softer than before. How long was I out? 2 days. The doctors say you should have been out for 2 weeks. Apparently, your body decided to heal faster out of spite. Do-hyun smiled weakly. That sounds about right. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside the window, stars burned in the endless dark. Somewhere out there, Earth was waiting. Home. The syndicate is finished, Alira said. Without their leadership, the rest surrendered quickly. The station is being repaired. The assembly will continue. She paused. My father is very grateful. The Valorian Empire is in your debt. I was just doing my job. Your job is translation. It was that too, eventually. He shifted carefully, trying to find a position that didn't hurt. I translated a message. Made sure your army understood what humans are capable of. Alira was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was strange. I have been alive for 200 years. I have met warriors from every major species in the galaxy. Champions, heroes, legends. She turned to look at him fully. None of them frighten me the way you do. I'm not trying to frighten anyone. I know. That makes it worse. She leaned forward. When you walked out to face Wraith alone, I thought you were going to die. I thought I was going to watch you die because of me. Because I was too proud to see what was standing right in front of me. What was standing in front of you? A shield. Her voice cracked slightly. A sword and shield wrapped in soft skin and gentle words. Something that looked weak but was stronger than anything I had ever seen. She touched his hand carefully, as if he might break. You saved my life. You saved all of us. And you did it after I treated you like dirt beneath my feet. You were afraid. People say stupid things when they're afraid. You keep forgiving me. Why? Do-hyun thought about it. Because holding on to anger is heavy. And I'm carrying enough weight. Alira nodded slowly. She seemed to understand. 3 months later, Do-hyun stood in the throne room of the Valorian palace. The room was massive, built for giants. Columns of crystal rose toward a ceiling lost in mist. Thousands of Valorians filled the gallery, their silver skin gleaming, their burning eyes watching. The emperor himself sat on the throne, an ancient being who had lived for 1,000 years. Do-hyun felt small again, but different this time. Not the smallness of weakness. The smallness of standing in a very big place, about to do something important. The story had spread across the galaxy. The human who faced an army. The translator who was a soldier. The weak creature who became a shield. Every species had heard some version of the tale. Some believed it. Some thought it was exaggeration. But everyone was talking about it. Princess Alira stood at the base of her father's throne. She wore formal robes of silver and blue, and she looked more beautiful than Do-hyun had ever seen her. Kang Do-hyun of Earth, the emperor said, and his voice filled the entire room. Step forward. Do-hyun walked to the center of the room. Every eye was on him. Every whisper fell silent. You saved my daughter. You protected the delegates of 12 worlds. You faced an army alone and made it retreat without firing a single shot. The emperor leaned forward. The Valorian Empire rewards those who serve it well. Name your price. Wealth, land, title, whatever you desire, it shall be yours. Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. He could ask for anything. Money enough to live like a king for 10 lifetimes. A palace on any world he chose. Political power that would change the course of human history. Thank you, Your Majesty, he said finally. But I don't need any of those things. I would like to return to my work, if possible. I'm a translator. That's what I do. That's what I want to keep doing. The court erupted in whispers. This was not the answer anyone expected. Alira stepped forward. Then let me offer something else. She turned to face the crowd. When I met this human, I called him weak. I called his species prey. I was wrong. Kang Do-hyun showed me what true strength means. Not the power to destroy, but the will to protect. Not the ability to hurt others, but the choice to stand between them and harm. She turned back to Doyen. From this day forward, I name you friend to the Valorian throne. The first human to hold this honor. You will have access to any Valorian world. Any door will open for you. Any ship will carry you. Not as a servant or a subject, but as an equal. The whispers became gasps. Friend to the throne was one of the highest honors in the Empire. The Emperor nodded slowly. Well spoken, daughter. Do you accept this honor, human? Dohyun looked at Alira. She stood tall and proud, but he could see something else in her eyes now. Respect, gratitude, maybe even friendship. I accept, Your Majesty. Thank you. The ceremony continued, but Dohyun barely heard it. He was thinking about the long road ahead. Humanity was still new to the stars, still learning, still proving themselves to a galaxy that saw them as small and weak and unimportant. But things were changing. The story of Station Apex would spread. Other humans would follow where he had led. Soldiers and scientists and teachers and doctors, all of them carrying the same stubborn will that had brought humanity out of the caves and into the stars. After the ceremony, Alira walked with him through the palace gardens. The plants here glowed with soft light, and the air smelled like flowers from a dozen different worlds. You could have asked for anything, she said. Why stay a translator? Because that's who I am. The fighting, the protecting, that was necessary. But it's not what I want to be. He stopped and looked up at the unfamiliar stars. I want to build bridges, not burn them. Connect people instead of driving them apart. Even people who mock you? Especially those. They're usually the ones who need connection most. Alira was quiet for a long time. Then she laughed softly. You are a strange creature, Kang Do-yeon. I'm human. We're all a little strange. They walked on through the garden. Alien princess and human translator, once enemies, now something else entirely. Behind them, the stars burned on, countless and eternal. Somewhere out there, other humans were looking up at those same stars, dreaming of the future, wondering what lay beyond the next horizon dot. And now they knew something they hadn't known before. They knew that the galaxy was dangerous. They knew that stronger species looked down on them. They knew that the road ahead would be hard, but they also knew that humans had faced worse odds before. They had been prey once, weak and small and frightened. They weren't prey anymore, and the universe was just beginning to understand what that meant.